Grown and Growing Podcast, episode 50. Calming your mind, breaking the cycle of overthinking, procrastination, and anxiety with spiritual coach and author, Celine Kheir. You're listening to Grown and Growing with Sonia Hamlin.
That's one exercise that I love. The other one is really focusing on the present as much as you can, because a lot of the time we overthink is we're dwelling on past experiences also, and on past things that have happened in the past or things that you are not in control of.
Welcome back to the Grown and Growing Podcast. I'm so glad you're here because I feel like today's episode is right on time. We live in a stressful and anxiety-inducing world, and the intensity of that stress and anxiety only seems to be increasing with each day. That's why I'm glad to have my next guest, author and spiritual coach Celine Kheir, on this episode to talk about her book, How to Calm Your Mind, which details her journey of how she defeated a cycle of overthinking, procrastination, and anxiety. In our conversation, she shares some practical tips about how we can all achieve a calmer mind in an increasingly chaotic world. Celine's full bio and link to her book is in the show notes. And without further ado, let's get into this topic. Welcome to the Grown and Growing Podcast, Celine. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm so grateful. Thank you for inviting me. And I'm doing really good. I'm happy to be here and to share some things with you, with our listeners. Thank you.
I'm so glad to have you too. You are a coach. You call yourself a spiritual coach. So I just want to get into why a spiritual coach and what do you do and what drew you to this work?
What drew me to this work is really doing the work myself. I got to a point, it was COVID time. It was, that's the time where we were working from home and where our life kind of slowed down. And in a way, that's when I was like, okay, you know what? I've always felt like I can do more. I've always felt like I did everything for everybody, but I never really took the time to see what do I really want. So I went on a spiritual journey. I threw myself in self-care and personal growth, and read a lot of books and did a lot of courses, and the more I was doing the work, the more I was pulled into the spiritual side of it, where really it's not just about being healthy physically, being healthy mentally, but there's also another piece that we don't really focus on, and which is the most important piece, is it from within, right? It's your soul, it's your intuition, that's when you realize that everything you want and you're always seeking in your life, it's within you and not on the outside. So the more journaling I did, the more practices I took, mindfulness exercises I did, the more I realized, okay, that's good. I'm changing. I'm seeing a very big positive change in my life, but that also led me to asking myself very big questions like, okay, do I really want to be an employee for the rest of my life? Do I see big things for myself, but I never thought I could do them because, there's a family, there's kids, there's all kinds of things that we're responsible for, and we try to control in our life. But I got to a point where it was so tiring that I had no more life in me. Like I was just always angry, always exhausted, losing my mind on little things. So I said, no, that's it. This is not a life I want for my kids. And I saw that it was reflecting on them too. So they were reacting the same way I was reacting. And I said, that's it. So that's when I decided, you know what, I need a coach. And I hired my first coach. And since I've had 5 coaches, and I will continue to work with coaches all my life because the results you get are much faster. And the results I got, they were so fast that I said, you know what, why not being a life coach? And I did the certifications for that. I did all the courses. But then I realized, no, this is not it. It's not just a life coach.
Right.
I am a spiritual life coach because I want to
Mhm.
share this. So that's how it led to spiritual life coach.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think with COVID, I think a lot of people were reassessing, their lives, right? It was a time when a lot of people got to take a much needed break. We live in a
Yes.
society where, sleep when you're dead culture, or, work, to work yourself to the bone. And it was a time where everybody was self-reflecting on their place in life. So I see that as a very natural thing to
Yes.
do during that time period. I guess the test is, when we come out of COVID and we go back to our crazy life, you were able to still, or were you still able to obviously maintain, what you had learned during COVID?
Yes. So it's not something that you practice for a
A
little
little bit
period
of
of
time.
time, and then okay, you start seeing results and you're like, okay, I'm done, I'm good. It's a continuous practice. I go to bed every night and I make sure that I don't close my eyes, I don't fall asleep if I'm not in the right mindset. If
Hmm.
any negativity is in my mind or any stress I'm carrying from the day, it needs to go before I go into sleep. So when I
Hmm.
start the day, the next day, I'm starting refreshed. That's the beauty about sleep,
Right.
is that you can reset yourself every day. So the next day, you're starting fresh.
So I have you on here because one of the things that you've done, which I find really good, is wrote a book
Yes.
called How to Calm Your Mind. And I found this book really interesting because it focuses on overthinking, procrastination, and anxiety, which is what we're going to talk about today. And so I am a recovering overthinker, right? With probably a touch of anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
through therapy and coach work and just becoming older and more chill. I feel like I can put them at bay, but to me, I feel like it's like an alcoholic. It's always there.
No,
Uh,
however,
you know,
it will always be there. It will
it'll always
always be.
be there. And so for me, it's important to, tame it. And so I want to break them down into pieces, right? You have overthinking, procrastination, and anxiety, and they all kind of play together so that you don't have a calm mind. And so where the mind is, the body follows, and
Yes.
your environment follows that. And so I want to start off by talking about overthinking, because I think there's a part of me that wants to say there is some value in thinking about things. Where
Yes.
does it cross the line into
Yes.
overthinking? So what is overthinking? In the book, you talk about the difference between
Yeah.
overthinking and self-reflection. Can we talk about when does pondering something cross over to overthinking?
So first, the over for me, the way I wrote this book is, yes, it's in three parts, but it's all based on what I went through and what I'm still going through. And everybody goes through overthinking, procrastination, and anxiety. It's how life is done. It's how we grew up. It's the
Mhm.
system. It's the pressure. It's that learn growing up thinking that we have to be in control of everything. And the overthinking for me, once you're overthinking, it's too much overthinking leads you to procrastinate, to
Mm,
having stagnation. And then from you procrastinating and not hitting your goals or your deadline, it eventually leads you to anxiety, just to stress, which stress becomes anxiety.
mhm.
So these three are very, for me, they're really connected, and
Yeah.
it's very vicious circle. And you cannot, it's like you said, you have to tame it. You have to have the tools to be able to be aware when it's happening, and then have your self-care toolbox, I call, where you can kind of like, okay, stop it in its track, or reduce the time that you're going through it, instead of like overthinking. Sometimes we can go on overthinking not only for hours but for days on days. And then you can bring it down to maybe half an hour or a couple of minutes. As long as you're realizing it's happening and you're trying to reduce it already there, you're doing amazing. You're doing really good. And the more you practice and the more you realize what's happening, the less it will happen.
Right.
And like you said, it also shows up in your body. So you'll know the triggers. Some people will recognize it. Okay, I'm overthinking, and then it leads to physical symptoms. Okay, so I know when I'm overthinking for myself, I get very, very, very bad headaches and a tension in my neck. So now I know every time I start feeling the tension of my neck, it will okay, what are you thinking at this moment? Are you really going through overthinking? Stop, take a break, For each person, it could be something different. For me, it was the fear of unknown. So every time I want to try something new or I want to do something different, I get that fear where I have self-doubts. It leads you to self-doubts. It leads you to having that I'm not good enough.
Yeah, I think for me, when I tend to overthink things, first of all, my husband is always the first person to bring it to my attention because he's like, "Oh my God, we're still thinking about it."
Oh,
I think for me, it's like trying to there's something in the thing that I'm thinking about that is causing me to, like you said, feel fearful or insecure, or I am dreading doing some action, right? And for me, I think when I overthink things, I am trying to solve the problem in my head before it actually happens. I'm also trying to think about every possible situation that could happen, right? So if this happens, I'm going to do this. And if this happens, I'm going to do this. But if this happens, I'm going to do this instead. And you're just playing out all of these different scenarios in your head, driving yourself crazy, but you never really get to a resolution because no answer is good enough. No situation you've quite figured out. And it is not until you have come face to face with that thing and it either goes, the way you think, it always goes. It's never as bad as you're thinking, really. Like when it comes down to it, it's never as bad as you're thinking. But to me, it was almost like an exercise of let me try to figure it out from every possible angle so that if pain comes, I can try to block myself from it because I have thought about it in advance when really you can't really prepare that way, I don't think, but
Yeah, the thing is, it's what I call it in the book also, it's the monkey mind. So the first thing we need to understand is what is the role of the mind, right? The mind is there as a machine, as a software, as a program. And the first thing that's important for the mind is to keep you safe. So most of the time when you go out of your regular routine or a thought comes in, so the mind will trigger, is this really safe for you? Like, I'm not too sure about this. Then it triggers some thoughts to come into your mind. But the thing we need to understand is that not every single thought you go through is actually a fact or is actually based on reality. So we need to, that's where you have to ask yourself, is what's coming into me now, what I'm dwelling over or what I'm overthinking, is it based on something that really happened to someone that I know? Is it actual? Is it based on an experience I've lived in the past? Is it based on a trauma? Is it based on, or is it me trying to just like, those are thoughts that are coming? Then you can say, you know what? Stop. I'm in control of you. You're not in control of me. I'm going to take that action. But a lot of us, what happens is that we start feeling uncomfortable and we get tired of it, exhausted, that we decide not to take the next move, or we decide to say, you know what, it's not safe for me. And that unfortunately will if you let overthinking take over in your life, you won't get where you want to actually be at. You just need to say, you know what, thank you for your advice, but I'll take the last decision. Now, you said something that is very important, is knowing the difference between overthinking and self-reflection. So self-reflection is very good. So it's when you decide, you know what, okay, this happened. Now you're aware of what happened based on something that really happened. It's a fact. It happened. So you can sit down and tell yourself, I'm going to take this time to think about it. And yes, you might think it's overthinking, but it's actually not overthinking, because now you're basing yourself on something true that happened, and you go over the points, and then it brings you clarity. It brings you solutions. It brings you back. When you feel that feeling of, oh, I've been at it. Now I'm not confident anymore. I was super excited to do this, but now I'm feeling self-doubt and the self-esteem is low. Then you know you're overthinking. But when you feel actual, no, I'm getting somewhere. I'm energetic. I'm finding solution. I'm getting points. Now you're self-reflecting. So you need to make the difference between these two, and always be aware of what your mind is going, your thoughts that are going through your mind.
Yeah, I think that's so important to what you said is determining what is true. Like,
Yes.
what is true? I mean, one thing that the mind is really good at is making stories up, filling in the blanks when you don't.
Yes.
Right. When you don't have all the information, the mind will gladly fill it in
Exactly.
with things that are untrue. And you can really, if you're not careful, you can really run with that and make real life situations based off of a story that happened in your head. And one of the things that I like to do when I get all frazzled and in my head, and I feel myself, panicking a little bit or overthinking something, the thing that helps me, and we can talk about some techniques that you have identified for overthinking, is writing it down.
Yes.
Like, I usually divide my paper, here is the good that can happen. Here are all the things that I'm afraid of. Here is what's fact. And here is what I think is going to happen. And here's why this may or may not be true. Or what evidence do I have that this is true? And it really helps me.
It helps
get out of my head, figure out, okay, a lot of this is are stories that I'm making up, and I'm getting myself all worked up. So it really helps me to write things down.
What you're doing actually, Sonia, is that you're decluttering your mind, because instead of having all of that in your mind, you're putting it on a piece of paper. So already there, by you just putting it on a piece of paper, you're creating space, and then you're analyzing, putting on the paper. And another technique that I had in the book also is the brain dump. Brain dump, it's basically what you're doing, but instead of having it into columns, it's like, okay, take a piece of paper, and everything that you're passing through your mind at the moment, just write it down. Even if you can't read your writing, just put it all down.
I do that as well.
Minutes. Yeah. And just put it down. And you may know what's happening, but it's really helpful because you're just creating space, you're decluttering your mind, and then you can kind of have the actual clarity coming in to be able to help you out. That's one exercise that I love. The other one is really focusing on the present as much as you can, because a lot of the time we overthink is we're dwelling on past experiences also, and on past things that have happened in the past, or things that you are not in control of. Even if you want to think about it for 24 hours, there's nothing you can do to change it. Or we think too much about the future, what is going to happen, and like if when I retire, or whatever that may be. It's too far. You're stressing yourself. You're overthinking something that is way too far. So if we live in the moment and we enjoy every day as it's coming, every second as it's there, you will. That's one of the things that I've practiced. And now today, I cannot think about next week or even what I'm going to cook tomorrow. I want to wake up in the morning, feel my energy, feel how I am today, and then I will plan my things to come. But it's really, and that there's a lot of exercises to feel, to mindfulness exercises or even meditation that can bring you into living in the moment. And the biggest thing also is, like, if you work with self-compassion. It's so important. For me, it was one of the things I was overthinking when I started my business. So I created my Instagram account, and then I posted a couple of posts, and then I'm like, oh my God, look at all these coaches. They have like thousands and thousands of followers, and who will come to me? Who will listen to me? Why would they, so that put me into overthinking and procrastinating. And it's like I would spend hours creating my website and this and that. But when I came actually to taking action and being there present on my page, I couldn't do it because I had self-doubts about myself, right? So it's when my coach started working with me and saying, be self-compassionate with yourself, say that appreciate what you're doing. Like you did something today, you worked on something, say like accept that, and then slowly you will get further away. So it's a lot of but I would say number one is the brain dump journal. That worked for me amazingly. It could be on paper, it could be on your phone or whatever it is, but just get your thoughts out of your mind.
I like that you talked about staying present, because I think, you, like you said, you had have a tendency to go either in the past or in the future, and being able to stay in the present, getting out a journal or a piece of paper, or taking a walk. I feel like, walking, which I just started to do on a daily basis now. It really helps me clear my mind. Another thing that a friend of mine just really got me into is grounding, like walking outside in the grass with bare feet, which I'm like, what? But just helping you, just for me, just being out in nature and is one way that helps me be present. Another thing that I like to do that you talk about a little bit is, like that you talked about today, is staying grateful, right? When things for me go bad and I'm in my head, it helps for me to write down things that I'm grateful for. And yes, I'm grateful every day, but I spend a week, a day, however long it takes me to just write down everything I'm grateful for that day, everything everything that I'm grateful for in my life at the moment. And it brings you a certain sense of peace, and that also go ahead.
That's another thing that I always tell my clients, and it's good that you brought it up. The gratefulness journal is the most important journal you can carry. And I always tell my clients, bring yourself a journal or something that you really, really love, and just make it for gratitude. And it's every night before you go to bed, just put down 10 things you're grateful for. And, at the beginning, you might be very like, oh, I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for my house. I'm grateful for my husband. But the more you do it and you practice it, now you have to dig a little bit deeper or see. And that's when you start realizing how everything we have, everything I am is gratitude. And what you're doing, you're making your brain practice gratitude. So what happens now is that in any situation you're in, you're overthinking, you're procrastination, you're in fear, you're any negative pattern that you go through, your brain will automatically throw at it a gratitude. You know what? It's not that bad. I'm grateful for this. Whatever I'm going through at the moment, it's nothing. I'm grateful for this. This is what I have. So you have a full bank of gratitude that are floating in your mind, and it becomes an automation. And that's how you are able to subconsciously change your mind into instead of having those thoughts, those bad thoughts, those negative thoughts being flowing your mind. Now you have gratitude overflowing your mind. You have good things coming in your mind. So that's an amazing exercise. And you know what? Sometimes it's as easy as I used to drive and put on YouTube affirmation and just let it run in the background, and just repeat those affirmation as I'm driving, or as I'm cooking, or so you just have to have an excess of good things that you can bring into your life, and be away from, negativity, from news, and like you said, for you, it could be walking. For me too, I love to be in nature, but for someone else, it could be just reading a book. As long as you distract yourself from the what's going on at the moment, that's making your energy level go down.
And with the collection of that, the gratitude journal, the journal, what they also do for me is also remind me that I am an overcomer, right?
Yes.
It allows you to look back and see to flip through your journal and see all of the things that you were worried about, all of the things that you thought about. And you can reflect on how those things resolve themselves. And 9 times out of 10, it's not as bad as you were thinking.
Yes.
And it just reminds you of, that you can overcome. When situations come up, you will deal with them. They will be hard, but you can still overcome. That's, what I love about what a journal kind of reminds, and a gratitude journal also reminds you that you are an overcomer. So I want to go into procrastination a little bit, because I think we all have a little bit of a procrastination in us, particularly if it's something that we dread doing, or why do we procrastinate? What do we get out of procrastination?
A lot of the times we procrastinate because it's a lack of motivation. It's the mix of overthinking and anxiety that gets pulled into there. But it's not being lazy. So I really want to make that clear that there's a huge difference between procrastinating and laziness. Procrastinating is really, you want to do it. It's just, you don't know for some reason why you keep putting it.
Right. There's a block there.
I'll get, like, tomorrow I'm going to be so concentrated. I'm going to give it my all tomorrow. Or you want to find the perfect time to do it, or the perfect space to do it. You find excuses not to do it.
Right. Like sometimes you won't have motivation, and those things still need to get done. And so you need to me, it comes down to, I don't want to say consistency, but sometimes you just got to power through something to do it. I used to think that
take action
with procrastination, that it's like, you know what? I work better under pressure.
Yeah.
All my best ideas come at the last minute.
Yeah.
So why is that a fallacy? Why is working under pressure? And I had to get out of that, because number one, I mean, when the work piles up,
pressure. You can do it under pressure because you programmed yourself to work under pressure. It's like a habit. You can do it. But what happens when you set yourself to do it under pressure on that day, and that's your last day, and then that day something unpredictable happens.
Correct.
And then how do you feel, right? So it's really it's a lot of time management. It's a lot of self discipline. What helped me a lot is starting to set stuff in my phone calendar. I put everything in my phone calendar now. You know what happens now? You're clearing your mind, and you don't have to think about it now anymore, because your phone will tell you exactly what you need to do, right? I program myself now that on those days, this is what I'm doing. And I don't need to work under pressure. Why? You can create more space for you to do the things you love to do. And at the same time, know that I don't have to live with that stress of my list of things to do and when I'm going to do it. Because all you're doing is working your mind nonstop to figure out when to action all these things. But you putting it down again on a piece of paper, you're emptying your mind, and you're actually doing it. The other thing also is distraction. A lot of people will procrastinate because it could be you're working on your business, and then but you still have Instagram open, or you have the scrolling, and it's all habits that we really have to put a list of all our habits, what is serving us, what's not serving us, and the ones that are not serving us. Now I need to create new habits. So I need to make space and cut those habits out. So for me, let's say I'm setting myself, okay, today I'm going to work on my business. Before I used to say I'm going to work on my business from 6 to 10. Well, what I realized is that I'll start, I'm motivated, and then I'll derail and go into something completely different. And then the 4 hours have passed. I haven't done half of what I was planning on doing. So I decided, many times it happened. Then I said, maybe that 4 hours is not what I need. Maybe I just need half an hour.
Right. Yeah, you're right about that. Because I think that, to be fair, and I do this at work sometimes too, it's like when you work in blocks of time, like short burst, right? You
focus time, we call it.
Yes, focus time. You work diligently for a half hour and then you take a 15-minute break and you only work on that thing. Like, I think what's also a fallacy when you talk about distraction is multitasking.
Multitasking. That's what I
It's
was going to say.
impossible, like,
In
to,
the past, but we
yeah,
were told in the past that
yes,
multitasking was a very good quality to have. And when you were hired in companies, multitasking was very important.
for
But what I
sure.
realized with experience is that no, if I'm working on Excel and I'm working on a project, I will not look at my emails for half an hour. This is dedicated time for this. And this is it. And then that's another half an hour where I'll look at my emails. But doing both at the same time is
Yes, that's how
counterproductive.
I have so many unsent emails that I thought I sent. So many texts in my text. I'm like, I text
Exactly.
you for dinner and you didn't text me back. And then
Yeah.
I go back to my text and I'm like, oh, I never
It's
sent it.
forgot to send it.
I'm like, oh yeah, because I was multitasking. Yeah, there is a
Asking.
fallacy in that. I think, our obsession, with working, nonstop and do more with less and get it done, the pressure to get it done, made people make up this multitasking thing. And then when you can't do it, then it's like you're the failure. You're the
Yeah,
failure because you can't multitask. When really
exactly.
we're not meant to we're not meant to
No,
multitask.
the really the thing, Sonia, that has helped me a lot is that every goal or every thing that I have to do or project or thing, break it down as many times as I can, as many little tiny steps as I can, and set little goals for every day. So
Mm-hmm.
instead of doing that thing within, like I was saying, 4 hours, I'm going to break it down onto 6 days of 30 minutes or 6 days of 15 minutes. Now,
Right.
what are you doing? Now you're doing that 15 minutes. You have no problem doing that 15 minutes or 30 minutes, right? So what's happening after you finish your 30 minutes? You're proud of yourself.
Yeah.
You are encouraging yourself. You are creating trust within yourself that I can do it. So now the next day you do it again. Oh my God, I still could do it. And then slowly, by practicing and creating that trust within yourself, then you can add a little bit more and say, you know what, I'll do tomorrow and today. You'll test yourself. But the goal is to get to your goal. It doesn't matter the time, but we are
Yeah.
so used to telling ourselves, I'm going to hit this goal within 3 months. And then if you don't hit it, you're so disappointed in yourself. But what if you hit it in 5 months? You still hit that goal. You
Yeah.
should still be proud of yourself. But no, now if I hit it in five, oh, okay, it's good. I hit it, but I'm still disappointed that I didn't hit it within 3 months.
Correct.
So we're too hard on ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's something to, I'm thinking back to the beginning when you connected overthinking to procrastination to anxiety and how they're all connected in almost like a loop, right? And
Yes.
that you put yourself
Yes.
into. I want to move on to anxiety because that's a huge one.
Yes.
I know, it was a therapist who first pointed out to me that I have anxiety. And I was like, what? At first, it freaked me out because I was like, no,
Yeah. We all have it.
yeah. And I was like, well, I
We
mean,
all have
honestly,
anxiety.
when you think about the world that we live in, right, where you don't feel safe, where there's a
Yeah.
shooting,
Yeah.
a shooting
Yeah.
anywhere, there's nowhere
Anywhere.
safe, right? And
No.
then, you have the chaos with our government, you have
Yes.
the chaos at home, the stress of having to, do, maintain a life when the cost of everything is going
Yeah.
so high. There is cause to be anxious, right? There
Yes.
is
Well,
reason to be anxious. How do we not fall into that?
you cannot not fall into that. So that's what I want to really focus on today is that
Mm-hmm.
having anxiety is okay. It's
Okay.
okay. Because what's happening is that stress is only supposed to be there for a couple of minutes. Stress is when you're in danger. Stress is something happening out of it, like it comes out in your face. It's like
Mm-hmm.
that there's a stress level that goes up, but stress is not supposed to last more than a couple of minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So when stress is carried, when
Mm-hmm.
when you're going through, you're putting yourself in situation, let's say you hate your job, but you're still going to that job because you have no choice.
Right.
You have to get paid. But now what are you doing? You're creating that every morning when you wake up, you're creating that stress where you're like, oh, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And then you're going and then you're going. And 30 years later, you're still stuck in that same job. Now
Right.
it's no more stress. It's called anxiety. A longer state of stress turns into anxiety. And anxiety, like you said, all the external factors are, it's like as if we are in a time now where you have no choice to be into an anxiety level. If you're not, you're
Correct.
not normal. Like,
Right.
don't tell me you can be in a positive mindset 24/7. Which part of Earth are you living on? Because
Right.
it's,
You are not on
yeah.
Earth, actually.
So it's exactly. So it's
Right.
really to know how to control that anxiety where, because there's anxiety and there's anxiety disorder where that's completely different, where this is something where anxiety disorder is usually, you don't know where it's coming from. You don't know what's causing it. It's like triggers all day long, but you not triggers, sorry. Like a normal anxious person or a normal anxiety, you will be able to attach it to something, a
Correct.
situation, an issue, or something that has happened that created that anxiety in you. Work or you're sad or some bad news. There's something that happens that creates this anxiety. But an anxiety disorder, it could be someone that is fearful of being in public. It can be alone. It's a very bad fear. It stops you from living a normal life. This is something completely different, and I'm not going to go too much into detail because I'm not an expert into that department. But like, I don't want all the listeners to think that anxiety is very easy and it's simple and it's no. There's some people that are going through very hard anxiety, and this is like, I would suggest to get
A therapist, you may
a
require
therapist.
medication. Yeah.
Exactly, because there's nothing wrong with that. It's the opposite. It will let you live a normal life. It will let you enjoy life. But in anxiety, as the one we live in and on a day-to-day basis, again, it's all about the tools you carry with you that will let you, when you know that you have been overthinking something for so long, or you've been driving yourself crazy about a thought, and then you're not taking the actions, so you're procrastinating, and then it's creating that anxiety within you, then, okay, now it's time maybe to do some techniques. So either, again, it goes to, you can do, I don't know, when I get anxiety, I do the 1, 2, 3, 4 breathing exercise. For me, it helps me right away on the spot. Okay, I'm feeling the anxiety. I'm getting hot. I'm getting what do we say? My mood is changing. I'm losing patience. I don't have any more, that calmness within me is no longer there. So I can tell it's coming. This anxiety is growing. So I'll take the time and I'll take a breath for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it for 4. Exhale for 4 and do it 4 times.
Yeah.
99% of the time, it will calm me down right away. Okay. I know it's anxiety. I know I'm stressing, but it's not a big deal. Life is still okay. And that's when your gratitude starts coming to you and you can control it a little bit. Meditation helps a lot, but not everybody is used to meditation and not everybody can do meditation. So the other thing that I offer for when you're going through anxiety is do a body scan. The body scan, you can do it at night in your bed. You can do it while you're sitting down at work.
What
Nobody
is a
has to.
body scan? What
A
is a
body
body scan?
scan, body scan is when you can close your eyes or keep it open, but the best time to do a body scan is at night, honestly, before you go to bed, or when you're anxious and you're at home or something, just go lie down or sit down and start the scan from the top of your head all the way to your toes. And what you're going to do is you're taking deep breath, but at the same time, you're thinking about the top of your head. Let's say, okay, what am I feeling here at the top of my head? I'm just focusing on this area. Then I'm going to my forehead, my eyes. Are my eyes relaxed? Are they? So you're relaxing every part of your body and you're going down one thing at a time. And wherever you're feeling tension, you'll know the more you do it, when you're having an anxiety, you'll start recognizing the places in your body where the tension comes out when you're having
Right.
anxiety. So it's again to go back to the beginning of the discussion. Sometimes you'll know you're feeling anxiety, but some other times you won't feel it until it's too far. So those body scans will lead you to where you feel the anxiety usually
Right.
in your body. So when you start feeling, oh, my shoulder is hurting, so and you know that when you do the body scan when you're on anxiety, you know that's where it's coming from. You'll start recognizing it before it gets too far and relaxing. It's all about relaxing your body and
Mm-hmm.
breathing in, breathing out. So the body scans helps a lot, a lot. So
Right.
do that, and you go all the way to your toes. And by the time you get to their toes, your breathing calm down, and your thoughts are no longer with
Right.
whatever anxious about, and you relax, and it helps a lot. So there's the body scan. The yoga helps a lot too if you're
Yes.
always doing yoga. And there's the 5 4 3 2 1 technique also, which the let's say uh, 5 things you see in front of you,
Okay.
4 things you hear
Mm-hmm.
around you, 3 things you smell. It's the five,
So
the
five
hear,
senses.
the senses.
Right.
And it doesn't matter which one you're putting which, but it's like, okay, so what are 5 things I'm seeing, 4 things I'm touching, I'm feeling,
Mm-hmm.
3 things I'm smelling, 2 things I'm hearing, and where was the last? So my brain
Uh,
is so frozen.
let's
The last
see. Sight, smell, touch, taste.
taste,
One.
and one thing I'm tasting. So what I suggest usually is put a gum or something in your mouth before you do that technique, or just so you can have something to taste.
Mm-hmm.
And that too, what is it doing? It's diverting you from the thoughts you're having at that moment, whatever it is that's making you feel anxiety. And it's all about practice. All these techniques
Correct.
is things that you can get used to, and eventually, like you, for you now, walking outside every day, you know how helpful that is.
Yeah.
The day you won't do it, you're gonna feel it.
Oh
You're not
yeah.
gonna feel good.
It's
You're gonna
almost
be like,
like I started in the spring and it's now and I was like, oh God, I don't want to do this. And I was like, it's just do the 25 minutes and be done with it. But now I go walking for 4 or 5 miles on the weekends. I walk for at least 2 miles during the week. It's just something that, calms me down. It is a form of
resets
exercise.
you.
I get to think, I get to be, alone for the most part. Sometimes, my husband will come with me. But I think one thing that you said that is really key is that you have to have a toolbox of things that you go
Yeah,
to in order to get some relief, right? And some of that is the breathing techniques. It is the
journal.
senses and
Yes,
right, the
yes.
yoga. You have to build these things in your life, right? You have to build them, you have to put these mechanisms in your life to not only sustain it, but to be able to cut it off when you first realize it. I think, sometimes do you feel like people are anxious and they don't know? They don't realize that they are.
Yeah, because they're so anxious that this is their new way of living. And
Mm-hmm.
until you stop and you decide to do the work and really be aware of what's going on within you, you can be anxious for many, many years and live with anxiety where it really affects your not only your mental health, but your physical health too. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of my headaches were programmed every single day at 3:30 in the afternoon for many years. It would just trigger, and that's it. Why was it? Because I was finishing my workday and I was already thinking about what am I going to do after work, picking up the kids, cooking, cleaning, the studying, the showers, and if I wanted to work on my business and this and that. And so my body was triggering this headache for me to
Mm-hmm.
realize, calm down, it's okay, it's going to be okay. But I wasn't understanding that until I started listening to things like this and practicing, and
Right.
but it took many years.
Mm-hmm. And
So
a friend of mine introduced me to meditation, like guided
yeah,
meditation. We started we do it on Monday mornings. And I think the thing that's most interesting to me is how relaxed that I become with her instruction, right? With her
Yeah.
guiding us through these
Yeah.
exercises. I think I'm relaxed, but it's not until I'm in that state and I really focus on relaxing that you don't realize how tense you are.
Yeah.
And we stay in this very tense posture probably most of our day. And you have no idea until you go to the spa and the lady tells you that you're tight, right? But you
Yeah.
walk around feeling tight all the time. I
But
think that, you have to practice these things to understand
yes.
what it's like on
Yes.
the other, what it's like to not be stressed. Just living this life, especially if you have a husband and kids that you're still, responsible for, they're in your house. Your life is busy and stressful.
Yeah.
It's almost like you can be on autopilot and not even realize the toll that it's taking on your
Yeah.
body.
No,
Yeah.
definitely. And I don't want people to think that there's too many things I have to do to really do self-care. But I put so many in the book, so
Mm-hmm.
many. But it's not about how many I can do. The more I do, the more I'll get results. No, it's which
Right.
one of these. Choose one or two or three and practice those three only. And really, 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 if I had to give you something, if you've never done anything, I would say taking the 4 seconds breath, holding
Mm-hmm.
it and releasing it, very
Right.
easy to use at any given time of the day. Do the gratitude journal and do the body scan at night. Guided meditation are the best for someone that's never done meditation. The guided ones will guide you and you will feel relaxed, like you said.
Yes.
And once, like Sonia said, once you try any of these and you see the results, you won't stop. You won't
Right.
stop. And then that's it. You are already, that's what we say, awaken. Once you
Mm-hmm.
are awakened to these things,
Yeah.
you cannot go blind again. You cannot go in the
Correct.
dark. And you'll keep implementing more
Yeah,
the
I think
ones
that's so true. Like with anything in life, right? You have to find the thing that you like, that you can keep up, and that also works for you. Because what I like and what works for me might not necessarily work for you. But I
Yeah.
guarantee there are things out there that will help you. And sometimes working with a life coach can help you discover what it is that you like, right? And
Mm-hmm.
gives you to somebody to talk through, what didn't I like about it? Oh, that's normal. Oh, okay. I thought I was weird. And I thought because I
Exactly.
had monkey brain that it wasn't working for
Yes.
me. And then you
Yes.
have somebody to come back to you and say, no, that's completely normal. Keep doing it and it's okay. Right.
Yes.
So the benefits of working with a coach in so many ways is that you can, it's an avenue for you to be vulnerable, to be able to talk through things instead of just leaving them up to you to decide. Because some things may
Yeah.
be totally normal and you have no idea
Yeah. And you don't
because
know
you're
how
new.
many other people are going through the same as you. Yeah.
Correct. So yes, everybody, if Celine has wrote a great book called How to Calm Your Mind, really focusing on overthinking, procrastination, and anxiety, which I've never seen anybody put those three things together. But I can so clearly see how they are connected.
They're very
So there
good.
are lots of tips in here for people who are interested. So one thing that I usually do this at the beginning of the podcast, but we just kind of hopped right in to the discussion. My podcast is called Grown and Growing.
Mhm.
And one of the things I like to ask my guest is a little, icebreaker about them being grown and them growing. So
Yes.
what makes you feel really grown? What is it
For
that you
me,
do? Yes, outside of bills, because everybody always says,
no,
I
no,
feel
no.
grown with bills. What makes you feel really grown?
Uh, for me, it's not about bills or anything like that. Is that I'm able to love myself,
Hmm.
that I'm able to set boundaries,
Yes.
which I really had a lot of a hard time doing all my life until the age of 35. And then that's when I was able to start setting boundaries. and being able to control my mind. I mean, that's the most powerful thing you can ever do in your life, is being able to control your
Yes.
mind and your thoughts.
Yeah. There's nothing
Yeah.
like a good boundary that
Oh
makes
no.
you feel like you got it all together.
You
You
know,
keep
and you're at a
figuring it
point
out.
where you're like, no, this is not what I want to do. No, I'm not going there. I'm okay. I'm going to stay home, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what was the last experience that let you know that you are still growing?
So I was triggered about something that happened not long ago. And
Mhm,
it's like, the same reoccurring similar event or issue that
mhm,
usually triggers you. That's why we call it a trigger. So
mhm,
it's the same thing that used to happen all the time in my past. And I would like, but why is it always happening to me? And why is it always happening to me? But to learn to accept, like, you know, accept it without blaming myself, that for me is already like, okay, it's a big change in my life. But I think I still have to grow there, where why is it still affecting me? Right? Like, I'm
mhm,
not blaming myself. I'm like halfway through it, but I know that there's a little bit more to dig and to grow about that
mhm,
area. And the other thing would be to accepting setbacks or failures
mhm.
more easily. Like, I
Right.
accept them, but I have to be kind of like sitting down and really taking the time to think about it and meditate about it and reflect on it. But like, my goal is to, you know what, it happened, it's done. Okay, let's move on.
Right.
So those are things that I would say I'm growing. I'm still
Yeah,
growing.
absolutely. Well, thank
Yeah.
you, Celine. This has been a really great conversation.
Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. And again, super, super grateful.
Yes, I'm so glad that you came on the podcast. We had a really great discussion. So thank you so much. And for everybody else, I will see you next time.